When you're alone in the woods and the only source of light is your campfire, you think you're safe, because there's no one else out there. But the truth is, the most desolate places are often the easiest to be watched. The following 3 true stories won't just make you fear camping, they'll make you question whether you were ever truly alone out there. Turn off the lights, put on your headphones, and get ready. Story 1. The Stalker in the Snow. In 2020, when the COVID pandemic shut down the world, I used that moment as an excuse to get away from everything, or more accurately, to run away from my own past. I'm a backpacking addict, and in the cold, eerie silence of lockdown, I chose to camp in Rocky Mountain National Park, Colorado. I didn't want to see anyone, and if I was lucky, nature might temporarily ease the chaos I had left behind. A year before that, I was involved in an incident that cost people money. The fallout spread, and my reputation collapsed. I had to move, change my number, and quit my job. At one point, I received anonymous messages, even threats. But in the last few months, things had seemed to settle down. I pitched my tent near a small stream that hadn't frozen yet in a snowy forest. There was no one around. No cars, no footprints. Just the sound of the stream and wind sweeping through pine trees. I built a fire-cooked dinner, read a few pages of a book. Then I lit a small joint, my little calming ritual. I started to feel more relaxed, until my phone buzzed. A string of messages from an unknown number with a 203 area code, Connecticut. That campfire of yours is really warm. So quiet out here, huh? I get why you picked this place. I froze. This couldn't be a friend or family. Whoever this was, they knew I was out here, and the way they wrote made it feel like they were standing just outside the campfire's glow, watching me. I replied, "Who is this?" No response. I jumped up and swept my headlamp around the tent. The crunch of my boots on the frozen snow sounded unnaturally loud, crunch crunch, echoing farther than it should. I pulled my P365 from my backpack and kept it right next to me. I decided not to kill the fire like I usually did. Total darkness did not feel safe this time. I got inside the tent, tried to go back to reading, but the words wouldn't stick. I switched to YouTube just to keep my brain occupied. I was watching a true crime documentary when the 4th message popped up. "Doesn't matter anymore." I typed back quickly. "How do you know I'm camping silence?" I sat frozen inside the tent, eyes locked on the screen, heart pounding so loud I could hear it in my ears. About 15 minutes later, I heard footsteps in the snow. Slow, deliberate, getting closer. They stopped barely 2 meters from the tent. I gripped the gun tight, thumb hovering over the safety. Then a flash of light pierced through the tent wall, like a flashlight or a camera flash. Seconds later, my phone buzzed again. A photo of my tent, from that number, along with one message. "Sleep well." I didn't think. I just moved. Instinct took over. I jumped up, unlocked the gun, and fired 2 rounds into the air. The footsteps retreated fast into the woods. I didn't chase. I stood there, hands shaking from adrenaline, chest tight from fear and rage. I shouted into the night, "I have a weapon. Come back, I'm waiting for you." No response. No more sounds. I didn't sleep that night. I stayed awake, watching the fire die down, gun in hand. And even though I'm still here to tell the story, the peace I used to feel while camping is gone forever. Years have passed. I never got another message from that number. And the scariest part, someone knew exactly where I was. In a snow-covered forest during a time when the whole world was shut down. Story 2. The Scream in the Woods. A prank turned nightmare. When I was a kid, every October, my family had a tradition we'd all gather at my Uncle Jim's cabin in northern Michigan. The house sat deep in the forest, surrounded by 4 acres of woods marked with red-painted trees at the boundary. That year I was 13, and it was my first time being allowed to camp overnight in the woods with my little brother and 2 cousins, Jake and Joe. All boys. We thought we were brave enough. The dad said yes, probably thanks to the beer. The moms protested softly, but didn't stop us. They dropped us off at a small clearing deep in the forest. My uncle called it the deer bed, a soft grassy area where deer supposedly slept. We set up camp, unrolled our sleeping bags, and the 4 of us were buzzing with excitement. When night came, we played Uno by flashlight, laughter echoing through the dark. And then, a scream. Far away. Piercing. Like a woman's voice. We all froze. I reassured them it was probably just a fox. Foxes are known for making sounds that resemble a woman screaming. After some hesitation, we kept playing. Then the scream came again. Closer. Clearer. This time, it didn't sound like a fox. It sounded human. We turned off our flashlights, slipped into our sleeping bags, hearts pounding. None of us dared run back to the house because the idea of being followed was worse than the dark. Then we heard footsteps, clear, getting faster, getting closer, leaves crunching under each step, and then they stopped, right outside the tent. A blood-curdling scream right next to the canvas. Then, the whole tent shook violently, like someone was rolling over it, punching it, kicking it. Jake screamed in terror. Joe curled up like he was going to pass out. I unzipped the tent and we bolted, sprinting through the woods, our tiny flashlight barely cutting through the fear. I remember each step on the dead leaves like running in a dream, slow and heavy. And one thought looping in my mind. What was that? When we got back to the house, the whole family was already outside. They had heard the scream, and our screams. I shouted, accusing my dad and uncle. You sent the girls out to scare us, didn't you? But then, they brought me inside. All the girls were asleep, had been for over an hour. No one had left the house all night. The next morning, my dad and uncle went back to the camp with hunting rifles. They didn't find anything except one side of the tent had been torn, and on the fabric, scratches, like fingernail marks, from a full-grown adult. We never camped there again. In fact, no one went into the backyard after dark ever again. And to this day, whenever I hear a scream in movies or real life, my heart pounds like the first time I heard it. In those woods that night. Story 3. The darkness that doesn't belong to this world. 2 years ago, my dad and I decided to camp in a remote national park, a place that once held sacred ground for native tribes. The site had everything: a stream, trails, and info station. But on the second night, everything changed. The staff told us we were the only ones staying overnight. Just us. We thought that meant perfect privacy. And it was until we left the info station to hike back at sunset. The air suddenly felt unnaturally still. No wind. The sky dimmed, in a way that felt unnatural, like someone turned the brightness down on reality itself. My dad whispered, "Feels weird, huh? Like we're in a dream." And I felt it too. As night fell, we sat around the fire trying to keep our spirits up with jokes. But our minds were listening for something else. Then, it started. A deep thud like a tree falling echoed from the direction of the river. We shined our lights. Nothing. Then again, and again. Each time, getting closer. The final thud was so close the ground vibrated. My dad froze, eyes wide, staring into the dark. "It's standing there." What as I whispered? "I don't know. Just a wall of darkness." We dove into the tent, zipped it tight, trembling. And then, the sound. Not animal, not human. A warped growl that came from everywhere. It vibrated through our skin. It rang in our heads, like it wanted to enter us. We barely breathed. I lay next to the mesh window of the tent, but I did not look outside. I knew if I looked, it would know I saw it. And then, we lost consciousness. Next morning, we woke up at the same time. Both our phones dead, even though they had been fully charged. The fire out, food untouched, and the clearest feeling we both had was that we had been invaded. But neither of us could explain what happened. We didn't speak the entire ride home, and from that day on, neither of us has gone camping again, not even once. Because I believe something got very close to us that night, and it wasn't human. It didn't belong to this world. We often think that when we camp out in nature, we're removing ourselves from the world. But in the dark, where no one can hear you scream, sometimes something is already waiting. If you've ever experienced something strange while camping, share your story in the comments. And if you enjoy stories that make you look at the woods with different eyes, hit subscribe. I'll be back with more true stories. Stories no one wants to tell, but that still happen.